Okay, now we did, go a little bit toward the gospel uh in the comments for Genesis for Genesis, but let's continue. Abraham, so we're leaving the call of Abraham and we're going to Abraham and Sarai in Egypt. So now there was a famine in the land, so Abraham went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was severe in the land. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to Sarai his wife, I know that you are a woman beautiful in appearance, and when the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. Then they will kill me, but they will let you live. Say you are my sister, that it may go well with me because of you, and that my life may be spared for your sake. When Abram entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. And when the princes of Pharaoh saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And for her sake he dealt well with Abram, and he had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male servants, female donkeys, and camels. But the Lord afflicted Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. So Pharaoh called Abraham and said, who is this? What is this you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say, she is my sister, so that I took her for my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go. And Pharaoh gave men orders concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had. Now, I just want to say, I noticed that there was a famine in the land, and so Abram went to Egypt. And just like in Exodus, there was a famine in the land. And Jacob, yes, Jacob later turned to Israel, ended up going to Egypt because his son Joseph had became in charge in Egypt. And because the famine of the land, they had to go to Egypt, and they were able to eat and get some food. And I just find it interesting that there was a famine in the land, and Abraham went to Egypt to escape the famine. Also, I found it interesting that, yeah, like his wife did get took, but, he got all these like camels and donkeys and manservants and female servants in the midst of that, gosh. And so when he was sent out of Egypt, he didn't get sent out empty handed. Yes. Just like his descendants didn't get sent out empty handed. His descendants spoiled the Egyptians. Okay. Abraham and Lot separate. So Abraham went up from Egypt, and he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him, into Negeb. Now Abraham was very rich in livestock, in silver, and in gold, and he journeyed on from the Negeb as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai. So the place where he had made an altar at the first, to the place where he had made an altar at the first. And there Abram called upon the name of the Lord. And Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, so that the land could not support both of them dwelling together. for their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. At that time, the Canaanites and the Perizzites were dwelling in the land. Then Abram said to Lot, "Let there be no strife between you and me, and between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, for we are kinsmen. Is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself from me. If you take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if you take the right hand, then I will go to the left." And Lot lifted up his eyes and saw that the Jordan Valley was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, in the direction of Zoar. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself all the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east. Now, I do notice that Abraham, in what he said to Lot, to me, it just indicates that he has some security in his prospering. He knows that I am going to prosper because I have a promise from the Lord. So, you choose to go left, I'll go right. You choose to go right, I'll go left. Lot, where do you want to go? And so, Lot looked and he picked, the more favorable to the eye. Later we know that Sodom was destroyed, So that Jordan Valley looked good, but the inhabitants of it weren't living so, hot. They were doing some stuff that ended up reaching the Lord, and the Lord came down and destroyed it. So it looked well. But it was worthy of being destroyed. So I did notice that. Yes, and so I am going to move on from there because that was what I got from it. What stood out to me from it. Abram rescues Lot. So, in the days of Amphrael, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goim, these kings made war with Bera, king of Sodom, Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shimbar, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar, and all these joined forces in the valley of Siddim, that is the Salt Sea. 12 years they had served Chedorlaomer, but in the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him came and defeated the Rephaim in Ashtaroth, Karnaim, and Zuzaim and Ham, and the Eman in Shava Karithaim, and excuse me for these names, and the Horites in their hill country of Seir, as far as El Paran on the border of the wilderness. Then they turned back and came to in Mizpah, that is Kadesh, and defeated all the country of the Amalekites and also the Amorites who were dwelling in in Hazazon Tamar. Then the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, this is Zoar, went out, and they joined battle in the valley of Siddim with Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, Tidal, king of Goam, Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar, 4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Siddim was full of bitumen pits, and as the king of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some fell into them, and the rest fled to the hill country. So the enemy took all the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their provisions and went their way. They also took Lot, the son of Abram's brother, who was dwelling in Sodom, and his possessions, and went their way. Then one who had escaped came and told Abram, the Hebrew, who was living by the oak of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and of Aner. These were allies of Abram. When Abram heard that his kinsmen had been taken captive, he led forth his trained men, born in his house, 318 of them, and went in pursuit as far as Dan, and he divided his forces against them that night, he and his servants, and defeated them, and pursued them to Hobah, north of Damascus. Then he brought back all the possessions, and also brought back his kinsman Lot with his possessions, and the women and the people. Now, I did mark this because Abraham, he wasn't a very large camp. He was, but not compared to these kings and the armies that I'm sure that they had brought with them. It says that Abram, I think, how many men was it that he divided? 380 of them. Yeah, Abraham heard that his kinsmen had been taken. He led forth his trained men, born in his house, 318 of them, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. And he divided these 318 men. He divided his forces against them by night, he and his servants, and defeated them and pursued them to Hobah, north of Damascus. And he got his possessions. He got all those kings, all their possessions for them. And he got Lot and Lot's possessions. So when the Lord is with you, it's all right. You don't need a whole lot, And the Lord can bless you with an army. That's very well. But there's proof in the Bible that you do not need a whole lot. What did David had? He had a stone. And Saul tried to give him his armor, his kingly armor. But David said, no, thank you. It's not proven, which means it's not like I can't fight with it. It's not proven on me wearing it. Like I haven't fought with that. I'm going to go get a stone and my slingshot, and I'm going to go out with the Lord, because I know that this Goliath, this Philistine, this uncircumcised Philistine, that's why he was saying, who is this that dares to come against the army of the living God? Obviously, this person doesn't really know, how mighty the Lord is, and that this battle is in our hand. So I'm going to go and accept this challenge with the stone, and get victory. And then, what was the other example of that? You don't need a Gideon. I believe Gideon had 300 men at the end, because the Lord told him, this is too many, and this is going to be my glory. So this is too many men. Have them go and drink some water And those who lap it up like a dog, you can go on and send them home. But those who kept it in their hand and were vigilant, you keep them and you fight with them. And he ended up winning that battle with 300 men. So you do not need a whole lot. You just need the Lord. Okay. Abraham rescues Lot. I read that. Now, Abraham blessed by Melchizedek. Oh, and I also I think they're gonna say it in this. Okay. After his return from the defeat of Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him, the king of Sodom went out to meet him at the valley of Shaveh. This is the king's valley. And Melchizedek, the king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest of God Most High. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram by God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And Abraham gave him a tenth of everything. And the king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the persons, but take the goods for yourself. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted my hand to the Lord, God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, that I would not take a thread or a sandal strap or anything that is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich. I will take nothing but what the young men have eaten, and the share of the men who went with me. Let Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre take their share. So he's saying Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre can take their share, but I don't no thank you to taking, the possession, lest you say that you make me rich. So I did like that. And I know that, like, I want to talk about Melchizedek, but I am not abundant in knowledge on that subject. And I know that it's too powerful for me to touch, knowing that I'm not, very knowledgeable in that subject, because that's a representation of Jesus there, so I don't want to touch that, knowing that I actually don't really know much, a lot on it, and that I haven't studied anything on Melchizedek. But hopefully someone in the comments can give a little information on that. Now I will read the footnote, Okay, according to so it says God's gift was not given to Abraham personally. Acts 7:5, but was given to him in trust as the founder and representative of the nation. And then it goes on to say, according to And that was for chapter 13 verse 15. What I just read was because of chapter 13 verse 15. Chapter 13 is Abram and Lot separate. Verse 15 says, wait a minute. Yeah, verse 15 says, "For all the land that you see, I will give to you and to your offspring forever." And so they're saying God's gift was not given to Abraham personally, but was given to him in trust as the founder and representative of the nation. Regarding chapter 14 and 2, what did verse 2 say? "These kings made war with Bera, king of Sodom, Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shimber, king of Zeboam, and the king of Bela." This is Zohar. And all, yeah, that was it. According to Jophus, the affairs of the country of Sodom were controlled by the 5 kings listed in this verse. Small but populous, Sodom was rich and flourishing. Wickedness and sexual sin were so abhorrent, however, that God decided to destroy the region, or at least Sodom and Gomorrah, the major cities. He rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire. And so that's why I was saying that Lot, picked that valley and that land that would later be destroyed because of how it looked. It looked rich and good, but once you actually get there and you get a closer look, it's not as it seems. There were a bunch of sexual sin there that God destroyed the land for. And obviously there was some conflict that caused war there. And Lot ended up getting wrapped up in that, and him being taken away captive along with his possessions. So he rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire. Genesis 19:24, you can go see that. And made them a lasting example of the wages of sin. 2 Peter 2:8, if you want to see that further delved into. Regarding chapter 14, verse 13, Abram was the first to be called a Hebrew from the root abar. And if you wanted to study that, the concordance number is 5,674. To cross over. The term is seldom used of the Israelites in the Old Testament, except when the speaker was a foreigner or when the Israelites spoke of themselves in the presence of someone from another nation. Now, pertaining to Melchizedek in the footnote. Chapter 14, verse 18 through 20. Abram gave Melchizedek a tithe because priest of God Most High, Melchizedek was a representative of God. This brief encounter was the foundation of a messianic prophecy. Psalms 110, verse 4. Also Hebrews 5 and 6 and 10. Chapter 7 from Hebrews and 1 through 28, verse 1 through 28. Melchizedek's identity has been debated over the centuries. There are 3 main viewpoints. 1. Melchizedek was the pre-incarnation Christ. It has been contended that the titles King of Righteousness and King of king of peace, ascribed to Melchizedek in Hebrews chapter 10, verse 2, rightfully belong only to Jesus Christ. 1 Corinthians 1 and 30, Ephesians 2:14. It would certainly be proper for the Son of God to both bless Abraham and receive tithes from him. Genesis 14:19 and 20. Nevertheless, the language of Hebrews 7 and 3 undermines this position. The Greek word translated resembling ephomoiomenos implies a comparison between two persons. It would be strange to compare Melchizedek to the Son of God if he were indeed the pre-incarnate Christ. Number 2, Melchizedek was the patriarch of Shem. The blessing given by Melchizedek to Abram has overtones of the blessing given by Noah to Shem. Melchizedek, the blessing given by Melchizedek to Abram has overtones. I read that. Melchizedek, however, is described as being without father or mother or genealogy, having neither beginning of days nor end of life. Hebrews 7 and 3. While Shem's parentage, Genesis 6 and 10, also 10 and 1, and lifespan, Genesis 11 and 10, and also 11, are known. 3. Melchizedek was a Canaanite priest king. These would be nothing unusual about a Canaanite ruler meeting victorious Abram in conjunction with the king of Sodom. In the light of the degrading nature of Canaanite religious practices, however, it would be unusual to find a Canaanite priest who worshipped the true God. The problem of Melchizedek's identity is a perplexing one. Each view has its strengths and weaknesses, and the question remains open to debate. So yeah, I left that alone. God's covenant with Abraham. Okay. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abraham in a vision. Fear not, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great. But Abraham said, O Lord God, what will you give me? For I continue childless, and the heir of my house is Eleazar of Damascus. And Abraham said, Behold, you have given me no offspring, and the member of my household will be my heir. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, This man shall not be your heir. Your very own son shall be your heir. And he brought him outside and said, Look toward heaven and number the stars. If you are able to number them, then he said to him, So shall your offspring be. And he believed the Lord, and he counted it to him as righteousness. And he said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out from Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to possess. But he said, O Lord God, how am I to know that I shall possess it? He said to him, Bring me a heifer 3 years old, a female goat 3 years old, and a ram 3 years old, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he brought him all these, cut them in half, and laid each half over against the other. But he did not cut the birds in half. And when birds of prey came down on the carcasses, Abram drove them away. As the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abram, and behold, a great darkness fell upon him. Then the Lord said to Abram, know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in the land that is not theirs, and will be servants there, and they will be afflicted for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterward they shall come out with great possessions. As for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age, and they shall come back here in the fourth generation, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. When the sun had gone down and it was dark, behold, a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch passed between these pieces. On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your offspring I give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates, the land of the Canaanites, the Kenizzites, the Kadamites, the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. Here it was I just liked that God told Abram that for 400 years your people are going to be slaves in Egypt, but I'm going to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and they shall possess the land. So I really liked that, because the Lord does give you a heads up. He really does. So I did appreciate that. And we will stop there as we are past the 30-minute mark. I hope the Melchizedek footnote reading wasn't confusing. I'm sorry if it was. But you can get this Bible, this one, and read it if you want. Okay, all right.